on the ground who are watching this closely, who are keeping the public informed, who are motivating activists to get involved, because this is an all hands on deck moment. And so I'm just happy to be here, and I'm thankful for all the work that all of you do every day, day in and day out.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman. And I'm hearing that some of our audio on the live stream is now fixed. So thank you for everybody who let us know that we were having some issues. Congresswoman, again, thank you so much for joining us. I want to start off, like I mentioned, talking about the Inflation Reduction Act, because we are coming up on the anniversary of that being made law. This was a huge win for our country, but also specifically for Nevada. What aspects of that Inflation Reduction Act are you most proud of fighting for your constituents?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, there's so much included in that bill that will benefit Nevada. First and foremost, the $370 billion of investment in renewable energy. I was just at the opening of the We Realize truck stop, electric vehicle truck stop. It's a charging station plus a truck banking station. We have so many truck drivers that across this country that have to pull off illegally and rest. Now Nevada's leading the way with that. That's just an example, not to mention all the investment in renewable energy. You have MP Materials down at the border. We're seeing all sorts of lithium, which has its own environmental issues, but we're seeing all sorts of investment into Nevada. So that's exciting to me. The fact that also that we made sure that these good paying jobs are union jobs as well is incredibly important, because I remember years ago when I went to talk to my union brothers and sisters about renewable energy, and there was a lot of resistance because so many of those jobs were not union jobs. And the fact that we've seen that marriage between clean energy and good paying union jobs is so important to our state. And then finally, the most important issue that we deal with, especially in the South, is the drought and the $4 billion in drought mitigation and what is going in to help, whether it is investments that compensate users for voluntary water reduction or water use reduction, or conservation projects to increase water levels. So very excited about that. And but I'm in not the greatest headspace, because I've literally have been sitting in appropriations meetings, fending off attacks by Republicans on every inch of the Inflation Reduction Act. And so, when we get these big wins like the Inflation Reduction Act, our work is not over. We have to make sure that money gets into our state and that we continue to move on those investments. And that's why the work that all of you do is so incredibly important, to make sure that we are all vigilant, that we're watching, and we're not going to be silent when people try. I mean, it's mind-boggling to me that people think that climate change is not real. And I've listened to it for 2 days straight. So we've done a lot of great things. Our work is not over, is my point.
Definitely. Well, another great thing that you voted for and worked on was the bipartisan infrastructure bill that is also coming up on an anniversary, or did have an anniversary recently. And you were instrumental in getting that passed and through to assist Nevadans. Can you let us know what you see as the next steps on both the bipartisan infrastructure bill and the Inflation Reduction Act? And what do states need to do quickly to implement these measures to see the benefits from them?
Well, first and foremost, like when we pass a bill like that, like the bipartisan infrastructure bill and the Inflation Reduction Act, first and foremost, I want to let people know that they should go to the website energy.gov/save. That gives you all sorts of information on how you personally can invest in, energy efficient appliances, solar panels, take advantage of the tax incentives and the rebates that were included in the Inflation Reduction Act. The bipartisan infrastructure law is providing hundreds of millions of dollars for hazardous fuel management, post-fire restoration and rehab, wildfire preparedness. So all of that funding is available in Nevada. As we know, wildfires are an issue for our state. I passed one piece of my legislation was the Water Recycling Act, which basically will allow investments. The Southern Nevada Water Authority is partnering with the LA Metro. And so that investment is important to our state because when the water recycling facility gets built in LA, that means more water in Lake Mead for Southern Nevada. And so the bottom line is there's all this money coming down the pike. And what we need to do as a state is make sure we're applying for it, make sure that my office, the senators, all of your congressional offices are aware of those applications so we can be advocates for it to get that funding into our state, especially as it relates to infrastructure. Broadband's a huge investment. We know that there are investments being made, the electric vehicle investments as well. So there's a lot that's being done sort of on the state level, but there's also so much that these bills offer for individuals as well. So, like I said, that I'm talking more about the Inflation Reduction Act than the infrastructure bill, but the infrastructure bill is incredibly important to our state. And we know that we've already seen investments being made. We have some investments being made on the I-15 and Henderson interchanges, smart streets programs where we're converting streets to be more user-friendly to bikes and pedestrians. And so a lot of funding out there. We just got to make sure that we're applying and we're getting that money into our state.
Awesome. Well, before we let you go, I know that you are fighting hard for our state in the appropriations, the big appropriations bill that y'all are fighting about right now out in DC. What are you pushing for? What are you passionate about?
Oh my gosh. I'm passionate about making sure that we're continuing to get investments into our workforce, making sure that we're making investments to get affordable housing, making sure that we have investments into mental health in our state. Those are all issues that have been so incredibly important. I always feel that Nevada is a boom bust type of state. And it seems that our economy is doing great in terms of, we've seen tourism come back, et cetera. But what we need to continue to focus on is the investment in what makes our state great, and that's people. We are a service-oriented state. Our people are who we need to invest in. And so for me, when I look at these bills, a lot of my stuff has been on the defense, honestly. I'm just going to tell you because every single bill has a rider in it to get rid of diversity, equity, and inclusion, to do anything they can to limit abortion access, including I'm about to go back to the House or to the floor to vote on the NDAA, which will include an amendment that will prevent service members who, by the way, have no choice, no say in where they are stationed. And many of them are stationed in states that are completely banning or restricting abortion. And there's no assistance for them to go out of state to have access to abortions. And so I feel like a lot of the past few weeks has just been on the defense, trying to protect those basic rights. Fundamentally, what's happening here in Washington is the Republican Party has ceded control to the MAGA extremists, the Freedom Caucus, and it's going to be important when these bills go to the Senate and then come back to conference, that we get something reasonable that we can all live with, because certainly what's being passed out of the House of Representatives really reflects the agenda of the far right. But I focus a lot on what are the things that make our state great. And obviously protecting our public lands, as you all know, that is a huge, huge issue for me, making sure we're protecting. I mean, today we had the financial services bill, and basically they want to defund the IRS, because if they defund the IRS, then that means we defund the money that we need to have to implement the Inflation Reduction Act. So essentially, by doing that, they're basically trying to roll back the Inflation Reduction Act. And so continuing to fight to make sure we're moving forward on progress on climate change, because we made so much progress in the 117th Congress. And now we just got to make sure we fund those programs and get that funding into where it's needed the most. And so, we got a lot of work to do. I just want to say one other thing before I end. There are plenty of guidebooks that the Biden administration has released with respect to the infrastructure bill and the Inflation Reduction Act. And so if anyone has any questions about how to access that money, go to, first of all, energy.gov/save is one thing, but also call my office. We are a resource. Your senators, your representatives, that's what we do. I mean, that's my number one goal, is to make sure these investments are coming back to Nevada, that Nevada is a leader. We have been a leader. We will continue to be a leader when it comes to the renewable energy space, when it comes to public lands. And we certainly have to continue to fight. We've been a leader in water conservation as well. And so we know how it's done in Nevada, thanks to all the work of everyone here. And we just need to continue to demonstrate that, but more importantly, get that funding into our state so we can continue to move in the right, continue our movement in the right direction as a leader.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Congresswoman. As a constituent, I am very grateful for all the work that you're doing to curb the impacts of climate change and fight for our state out in Washington, D.C. I was going to ask for some final thoughts, but I think you summed it up pretty well. Is there anything else you want to add before you hop?
No. I just want to thank you guys. And it's been, I honestly, I'm a little fried right now, because it's just like, it's insane. Listening to these attacks on our LGBTQ community, on all of the values that we hold dear in the name of freedom, and certainly women's reproductive rights as well. But most importantly, it's just incredible to me at a time when literally the predictions that were made 20 years ago of what climate change would look like are literally happening in front of our eyes. And it's just, people are already feeling the impact. Our most marginalized communities are the ones who are feeling it first and the hardest. And to me, we just have to keep united, keep working, because right always wins. And we are right on this issue. Nevada is a leader on this issue, and we will continue to be a leader because, one, we're the most hurt by climate change as we've already been. And so I just want to thank all of you. Know you have a partner in me, and we're going to continue to work together and solidify our role in leadership in the climate change public lands fight. So thanks everyone for all you do.
Thank you, Congresswoman, and thank you for joining us.
All right. I'll see you. Bye.
Bye. All right, folks. Now we're going to bring in the rest of our lovely panel. We just wanted to make sure we could ask the Congresswoman some questions before she had to hop and get back to all of the hard work out there in DC. So first, Mark, I'm going to come to you just to do a little reintroduction in case folks forgot the rest of our panel. We have Mark Peckham, a field organizer with Environmental Defense Action Fund. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do with EDF?
Sure, I'd love to. So like you said, my name is Mark Peckham, and I'm EDF Action's Nevada organizer. EDF Action is the advocacy partner of the Environmental Defense Fund. And basically, it's my job to connect our grassroots members with opportunities for political action at the federal level. So we're out here trying to build our political power for climate solutions and the community all the time, advocating for bold climate progress, engaging our grassroots volunteers. We're really trying to connect, we're trying to connect our members to their elected officials so that they can advocate at that grassroots level for pro-climate legislation. And then during election season, you'll find us out knocking doors, trying to help, elect and re-elect people we refer to as our climate champions. And then lastly, lately, our focus has really been around Environmental Protection Agency rulemaking process. With the divided Congress, we just heard from Susie Lee how everything is a battle there. We're really focused on the EPA. We think that's where we can make a big difference at the moment. So we're advocating for standards to keep our communities healthy and fight climate change. And that's ranged from everything from heavy-duty truck rules to our current campaign, which is about cutting pollution from power plants.
Awesome. Yeah, we have been invested in that issue as well. I'm going to do a little bit of a round robin so everybody can introduce themselves, and then we'll come back. Nick, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience and talk about what you do with the Sierra Club?
Hi, I'm Nick Christensen. I'm the chair of the executive committee of the Southern Nevada group for the Sierra Club. And basically, I'm the lead volunteer in Southern Nevada for coordinating all of our efforts in working locally and working with our national programs.
Awesome. And Yasmin, I'm going to come to you. I think folks hear from you a lot, especially at our events. But if you want to go ahead and do a little bit of an introduction and talk about the work that you do with NCL.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Yasmin Pelayas. I am the Digital Media Manager and Communications Associate with the Nevada Conservation League. Here at NCL, we're the independent political voice of Nevada's conservation community, and we work to maintain and enhance the natural character of Nevada, as well as the quality of life for Nevadans. And we do that through effective advocacy, the election of pro-conservation candidates, and then through building collaborations with some partners, for example, like the ones that are here today. Excited to be here. Thank you, Shelby.
Yeah, thank you. All right, Mark, I'm going to come back to you. Here in Nevada, we are very lucky to have representatives and senators, at least most of them, all but one, who have supported the bipartisan infrastructure bill and the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act. What provisions in each bill are you most excited about relating to climate and our environment?
Well, first off, I agree that we've got, some really great electoral climate champions here in Nevada. I'm really grateful for them for being the leaders on this issue. During their tenure, they have supported historic legislation that tackles the climate crisis in a way that the U.S. government just has never done before. And, it's also bringing good paying jobs here in Nevada, which is something we always try and, get the word out about. The bipartisan infrastructure bill, it's transforming our nation's transportation infrastructure and improving climate resilience in Nevada and beyond to protect our communities from the impacts of climate change. The Inflation Reduction Act has so many great provisions aimed at lowering energy costs, creating jobs, and securing a healthy future for Nevadans. Within the Inflation Reduction Act, I'm especially excited about the rebates for home energy efficiency measures and electric vehicle tax credits. Across the country, people have been saving money on energy costs by installing new electric appliances, solar panels, battery storage systems. In addition to that, the Inflation Reduction Act has made it easier and cheaper for people to purchase electric vehicles. These incentives, they're a game changer for incentivizing, cleaner power and electrification. We're seeing a real increase in jobs in manufacturing. We're really securing Nevada's leadership in this clean energy transition. Like, we can be a national leader in these new industries that are being built. Recently, the Environmental Defense Fund put out a report tracking all the investments in the electrical vehicle industry. And according to that, Nevada is number 4 in the entire nation for the investments and the number of jobs that are being created here. I mean, that's huge. in addition to that, they're making these laws are, like I said, they're boosting us. I think I live down in Vegas. I think a lot of us down here don't realize those huge changes and the huge number of jobs that are coming to Northern Nevada around those car industries. But there's plenty of stuff down for Southern Nevada as well. The solar industry here is supposed to, it's estimated to double in size the number of jobs just in the next 5 years because of those IRA investments. Yes, I mean, it's transformative, both at the industry level down to the jobs we're bringing to individuals and the cost savings to Nevada families.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for that breakdown. That was super comprehensive. Nick, I'm going to come to you for your Sierra Club perspective. What benefit will Nevadans receive specifically as we're dealing with extreme heat, as we work to pass pieces of legislation like the IRA to curb the impacts of climate change on our communities here?
Well, the big ones are, as Mark already mentioned, is the energy efficiency credits and what it will allow us to do in terms of not just the tax rebates in terms of getting, heat pumps and heat pump water heaters, weatherization. It's a huge one into our homes, but also the direct benefits available for lower income folks who may not even have those sort of appliances or have inadequately operating ones in their households. I think that's just a really big deal that's going to be transformative in terms of quality of life for a large number of people. And to get that, a lot of that stuff moved off of fossil fuels and electrified is going to pay enormous dividends for our whole region down the road.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I want to kind of bring it back less from a national IRA standpoint and more to talk about the news that came out yesterday about Governor Lombardo pulling Nevada out of the U.S. Climate Alliance. We are in great company, with Governor Youngkin in Virginia, who is a far-right extremist, and it was just a great decision, I think, for Lombardo to make. Yasmin, I'm going to come to you. How will this decision to pull Nevada out of the U.S. Climate Alliance impact Nevada's participation in our efforts to lower greenhouse gas emissions?
Yeah, well, firstly, Governor Lombardo's decision to withdraw Nevada from the U.S. Climate Alliance makes a very clear and bold statement, and that is that that he's made a clear choice to prioritize utilities and their profits over everyday Nevadans. And like Nick mentioned, those Nevadans who are most impacted by the climate crisis, those who are already struggling to pay their energy bills amid record-breaking temperatures, specifically in Nevada. And so Nevada has shown a commitment to clean energy in recent years with policies and initiatives aimed at promoting renewable energy development. But despite the progress that we've made in the state, this decision to exit the alliance contradicts these efforts and cedes Nevada's leadership on clean energy and climate. So essentially, by not prioritizing clean energy investments to A, diversify our job market, and then B, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, that just means that Nevada's economy and environment will also suffer. So really, it's just a big step in the wrong direction. It's a big step backwards. And we are definitely joining forces with other environmental and conservation groups to voice that and uplift those who are going to be most impacted by this decision.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to get everybody else's thoughts on this as well. And to be clear, it is extreme sarcasm. It was not a great decision. Mark, I'm going to come to you. What is your take on Lombardo pulling us out of the U.S. Climate Alliance? And what do you think it means for the future of the fight against climate change here in Nevada?
I mean, it's just a huge disappointment. We're experiencing, record-setting heat every year now. Reno, in particular, northern Nevada, is just hit with wildfire smoke. Across the country, we're seeing record heat. We're seeing floods, other climate-fueled disasters. We've got to take bold action, and to have our governor, abdicate that responsibility is just so disappointing. the governor I wish we had would support, a safer climate future for us and our, and the citizens of Nevada. We really need those limits that Nevada can keep moving forward and meeting them and not taking steps backwards in our climate transition.
Yep, definitely. And Nick, I'm going to come to you for your thoughts on this as well. I also know that Sierra Club is really focused on public lands conservation and protecting, our beautiful state and the lands that we're so blessed to be surrounded by. What will this do not only to folks living in Nevada, but also to those public lands that we've been fighting to protect?
Well, fortunately, in Nevada, most of our public lands are federal lands, and so the governor has a limited capability of disrupting those too much, which we're very fortunate about at this point in time. But Governor Lombardo is the only governor that was elected in 2022 that has chosen to withdraw from this treaty. None of the others have stepped back. Arizona has joined in the meantime, and good for them. Thinking back to his original State of the State address, we could all see this coming, but it is, Mark's right. It is disappointing that this has happened. Fortunately, our legislature has held strong against his most fossil fuel friendly policy initiatives, and maybe the best that we can hope for is détente until we have an opportunity to replace him with somebody who's a little bit more environmentally conscious.
Yeah. And I'm going to stay with you for just a second. Going back to the Inflation Reduction Act, I know that the Sierra Club was really stoked about the provisions for electric vehicles. I know it's not a perfect fix for being out of the U.S. Climate Alliance, but how will this transition, this funding for electric vehicles kind of help fight greenhouse gas emissions, and how will Nevada residents benefit from that?
Well, I think it'll be just absolutely transformative. The fact is that since the Inflation Reduction Act and the Infrastructure Act have been passed, there has been an incredible amount of investment by domestic automakers in their own facilities here, and in battery facilities, and in solar panel manufacturing facilities. That has been going gangbusters, and it shows an understanding by the business community in this country about where our future lies, and that it lies in a decarbonized society. And so, we live in a capitalist society, and money talks, and it is telling us what that future looks like. And the future of personal transportation is electric.
Yep. No, thank you for that. Yasmin, I'm going to come to you kind of bouncing off of that idea. How will businesses moving to clean energy support a clean energy future and address climate issues here in Nevada?
Yeah, businesses moving to clean energy in Nevada can contribute to a cleaner, more sustainable energy landscape, and also reduce greenhouse gas emissions while driving economic growth, creating jobs, and positioning the state as a leader in addressing climate change, with a few key 4 points that I want to make. Businesses can reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and especially by leveraging some of these federal funds that we are seeing come in already. So that's one, reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Two is investing in renewable energy development. And so we see that when businesses invest in clean energy infrastructure, such as installing solar panels or wind turbines, it helps to expand the capacity for renewable energy generation in the state of Nevada. And then it helps us create more domestic clean energy. And that's something that we want to prioritize, because obviously we're seeing that that also means more money funneled back into the state of Nevada, like Nick mentioned. And then two, it also means promoting economic growth and job creation. We're going to see that the renewable energy sector will be offering more opportunities for new businesses to emerge, existing businesses to also diversify themselves, and then create more job growth in areas such as the manufacturing, installation, maintenance, and then research and development. And then three, will also bring energy cost savings to Nevadans, especially those most impacted, like we mentioned earlier. And then four, it will ensure that we're boosting businesses' leadership and reputation. And I think that's something that's really attractive to businesses right now, because we also see that businesses who embrace clean energy will show that they are committed to environmental leadership and social responsibility, as well as making a public commitment to sustainable practices so that they can enhance their reputation, attract environmentally conscious consumers, stakeholders, investors, and employees. And then we also see this have a ripple effect that ensures other businesses follow suit and take advantage of these tax incentives that are already flowing into our state. So there's a lot of ways that we can make sure that businesses are taking advantage of this, and then that businesses have access to these incentives.
Awesome. Well, breaking off of businesses and kind of moving more to talking about individuals, Mark, I'm going to come back to you. Can you discuss the importance of grassroots organizing and everyday Nevadans getting involved in this fight to push for climate progress and climate protections?
Yeah, absolutely. In Nevada, we've seen the power of grassroots organizing in the climate movement. I'm out there every day, and I've been so inspired by the thousands of activists I've connected with over the years in the state that they're eager to make their voices heard by their elected officials, and they want to advocate to protect their communities from climate change, both writ large and some of the real specific disasters that we've seen in the state. In Nevada, people experience the impacts of climate change every day. It's not some abstraction here. We have extreme heat, we have drought, we have wildfires, all these climate-fueled weather events. And Nevadans are speaking up and sharing their experiences, showing our state's leaders that climate and clean energy, they matter here. They matter to their constituents if you're an elected official. Grassroots organizing is a force that has the power to really shape the future. As an organizer, we're out here building community and giving people opportunities to drive those meaningful changes and really feel like they're making an impact. I do have to make a quick plug here that if folks do want to join, our grassroots kind of climate advocacy army, they should go to edfaction.org/member. And just, if you'll allow me a little bit of log rolling there.
No, plug away, plug all you want. I'm going to come to Nick because I know that Sierra Club, having been a Sierra Club volunteer in the past, I know that the Sierra Club is volunteer run and grassroots organizing is very important to the work that y'all do. Can you talk a little bit about the work that the Sierra Club is doing as it relates to climate protections and engaging folks at the grassroots level, getting folks more educated on policies like the IRA and like the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act to get them engaged and get them activated in their communities?
Absolutely. As you said, the Sierra Club is the world's largest environmentally concerned organization, and it is volunteer-led and run, and it's the key to everything that we do. We're spending a lot of time trying to get protections for public lands. We're part of the coalition with other folks here to get Vikwame declared as our latest national monument. That's fabulous. Now it's on to the next one. We're working with providing commentary with the Bureau of Land Management, trying to make sure that our other public lands are protected and that we have a proper balance between the renewable energy use and the protection of our most sensitive areas and species. And it's a really tough thing to do in Nevada since we've got so many small pockets with endemic species that are found nowhere else. So protecting them is extraordinarily important while we still have to move to a clean energy future. We're also very politically active, both within the state with endorsing candidates that support green policies, and also with our legislature and our other government organizations trying to ensure that we represent both the people of the land and the future.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yasmin, I'm going to come to you. I don't want to ask you the same question, but I will get your take on that a little bit later. I want to switch it up and ask an issue that so many Nevadans, specifically in the North, deal with is wildfire smoke and the impact of these wildfires that break out annually. what provisions are there within the Inflation Reduction Act or the Bipartisan Infrastructure Bill that will help mitigate these wildfires, specifically as we're entering or are coming upon fire season as it starts heating up?
Yeah, unfortunately, that is the case. And unfortunately, we're seeing that it's only getting worse. And so we are excited to see that the Inflation Reduction Act and the Bipartisan Infrastructure Bill have specific investments that will go towards wildfire mitigation. And I just want to highlight that the American West each year is suffering. And like you mentioned, Shelby, it's something that our folks in Northern Nevada are seeing right now, and it's coming up. We are approaching fire season. So I do want to highlight that some federal investments included in these federal laws include targeting communities most at risk, investing in those communities most at risk. And so 86% of the 100 grants announced for those communities are also going to areas considered underserved. And this is in line with the administration's commitment to Justice 40 to make sure that when we are talking about climate solutions, we're also talking about making sure that we don't leave anybody behind in the transition to clean energy investments, and then also wildfire mitigation programs. The federal investments will include over $7 billion in funding for federal agencies to enhance our ability to mitigate and respond to wildfires. And a few examples of those include wildfire prevention and preparedness. It includes firefighting resources and new technology, so investing in technology existing or new. And then infrastructure resilience, so making sure, again, that those low-income communities, for example, have access to making sure their homes are able to be resilient in the face of these growing wildfires, and then also investments in research and innovation. So we do see that money is there, and we're excited to see them play out in the next few years, especially as those get worse.
Got it. Thank you. We have a question or questions from the chat, kind of all asking the same sort of question. And anybody can take this, but if y'all are gun shy, I can go ahead and assign it to one person. Are there local actions or policies that we can work toward or educate folks on to mitigate climate change outside of the IRA and the BIL that have already been passed? Yeah, Nick, take it away.
Yeah, well, I think that's the key question. I mean, there are a lot of things that we can do in our personal lives to, make a cleaner world around us. But the changes that need to be made are systemic. They are big. And the biggest thing that you can do is political action to vote for and elect people who are going to adopt policies that consider the climate change as part of their platform and what they're trying to accomplish. So the number one thing is you'll get involved. The number two thing is get involved with organizations that are trying to achieve systemic change and are trying to do it politically, because that's where, again, the Inflation Reduction Act just got passed. It's the most important piece of legislation ever passed regarding climate change. And it happened almost completely along party lines.
Yeah, Yasmin?
Yeah, and then I'd also like to add that sometimes we see that communities, specifically undocumented communities, also want to get involved, and sometimes they can't vote for the specific candidate that they want to. And so we also encourage all communities to share their voice. Like Nick mentioned, get involved with an organization. It doesn't mean it's not a linear path, and so that means that there are options if you are interested in writing an op-ed or testifying. That's something that you can do. And so any organization that is working on conservation issues here, and especially on this webinar, are happy to guide you through that process and amplify your experience, especially as more Nevadans are becoming affected by the climate crisis.
Mark, you want to hop in here just so you don't feel left out?
Yeah, well, I wanted to, I mentioned this earlier when I was talking, but the EPA is currently accepting public comments on their what we call the kind of the carbon rule around smokestack pollution from power plants. And we're focusing on these, what we call kind of our Solutions for Pollution campaign, because we think if the Inflation Reduction Act gets us, most of the way towards President Biden's climate goals, these kind of administration actions can get us the rest of the way. And those power plants are the second biggest kind of climate pollution sector after transportation, which we've been tackling earlier with heavy trucks and light vehicles and various other EPA rules. So I just ask folks to make a comment on that. We got about, I believe, August 8th. So we're trying to make sure that they're hearing from regular people and not just industry.
Definitely, yeah, and we are engaged on that as well. We've been working with Climate Action Campaign to make sure that we get the word out that people can make their voices heard on these EPA rules. I had no idea that an average Nevadan, a normal Nevadan like me, could go and submit a comment, and you can. So that was very exciting to hear.
And this is why we spend so much time out organizing in the community, because I think the average voter, they know, generally speaking, how a law works. They've seen Schoolhouse Rock, but hardly anybody knows how an administrative rule gets made. And so historically, the only people who were showing up at these hearings or were making comments were the polluting industries saying, they didn't want anything to change. And so we try and counterbalance that by making sure that they're hearing the voices of everyday Americans too.
Yeah, and that is super important. I'm so sorry. I was trying to find a link to where people could submit their comments. I forgot to mute myself, so I apologize if you heard me typing. We have a question in the chat. It's very specific. Nick, I think this is right up your alley, from Yvette. Can you discuss in more detail the financial incentives for individuals to purchase electric vehicles? Last year, incentives were only for new electric vehicles made in the U.S. Is there any help for purchasing used electric cars?
Yes, there is. In the Inflation Reduction Act, for the first time, there is allowances made for purchase of used electric vehicles. The thing is that the rules are very, very complex. They depend upon the auto manufacturer and how many electric vehicles they've sold. Depends on the price of the electric vehicle. Depends upon the weight of the electric vehicle. So I don't have anything better specifically, because I don't know the specific situation, than to say go to the energy website that Congresswoman Lee mentioned. Take a look there. There are some good resources online, and they're not too hard to find. But it's, it is complex, but there are incentives out there for the resale of electric vehicles, and that's a really good thing. And we're very excited that got put in the law.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, that is an issue that I definitely want to learn more about. I do not currently have an electric vehicle, but they look great. I want to talk a little bit more about Governor Lombardo's pulling out of the U.S. Climate Alliance. I know it can be very disheartening, especially as organizations that work to advance clean climate education programs with folks. Can I get some thoughts from each of you, and then we'll just kind of go to closing thoughts. Thoughts from each of you for folks who might be feeling a little disheartened about the work and what this might mean for the future of pushing against climate change in our state, if that makes sense. Yasmin, I'll come to you first.
Yeah, I think we heard a lot of optimism today in terms of ways to get involved. It doesn't stop here. The work will continue. And so there's always going to be work to be done. And I think that first step is getting involved with the organizations that are moving progressive and conservation policies forward in the state. We just wrapped up our last legislative session just in June. And so that happens every 2 years. And so I encourage all Nevadans to get involved in that. But in the meantime, we're making sure that we're talking to our elected officials to make sure that when that time comes around for the next legislative session, they know what Nevadans want, what we're looking for. And that's also just a great opportunity to pass other legislation that will move Nevada forward. So there's always work to be done. There's always ways to get involved.
Yeah. Nick, I'm going to come to you.
Sure. Well, I mean, we look around us, the country this year, and we see, weather that's out of control. There are a lot of, we see things like a governor taking us out of the climate alliance. But I think there are a lot of reasons to be really optimistic, or at least I choose to be optimistic, because, that's how we're going to get the things that we need done. You take a look at the adoption rate now on electric vehicles. It's very, very high. You take a look at and increasing, going up year over year. It's not super high yet, but the rate of change is big. Heat pumps outsold heating units for the first time this last year in the United States. That's really exciting. And that was before the IRA took effect. We see things like, the power mix in California this spring. They had days where all of the during daylight hours in the spring, basically all of their power was being powered by renewables for hours at a time. That's exciting as well. There are a lot of reasons to think that we're heading in the right direction on a bunch of these issues. Now we want to accelerate those, and we want to expand these changes into the sectors that haven't been, decarbonized, things like agriculture, construction, and so on and so forth. But we're moving in the right direction. It's not fast enough, and there are a lot of challenges ahead. But the things that have already been done have made a huge difference, and we need to keep at it and, in fact, intensify our efforts.
Yeah. And Mark, just to round it out, any words of optimism?
Well, I think I'd second a lot of what Nick said. We're making tremendous progress. This is a step backwards, but after quite a few steps forward. I think I would say that if the governor closes one door, then we find a window to go through. There's always another kind of point of pressure. I've talked about earlier, just federal agencies and getting those kind of regulations into place where we can, they're more protective to our communities. That's somewhere where we've nationally, our coalition has been inundating them with hundreds of thousands of public comments around these rules. So there's ways to get involved at the federal level. We I think have a pretty good state legislature on climate issues. They're going to need to be reelected before the next cycle if we want to talk about a check on that governor. And then there's always a lot that could be done, locally, as far as making our cities and our counties more climate resilient as well. So, if there are opponents of kind of the climate movement in positions of power blocking some access, there are other places we can still make change, and we need to find those and act on them.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for those words of wisdom and optimism, because I have been feeling a little bit disheartened. We are rapidly approaching 6 p.m. I'm going to go through for each of you to give some closing comments. If you want to make them specifically about the IRA, that would be great, as we are coming up on the anniversary, and talk about the other climate investments that you are excited to see. Yasmin, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, I think I'm excited to see more of that implementation for the Justice 40 communities. We talked a lot about the communities most impacted, and we really need to hone in on making sure that those voices are the ones that are uplifted the most, because they are the most impacted. And so I'm excited to see investments that support all communities, specifically communities most impacted in the state of Nevada. So excited to see that. And I'm very hopeful. I think there's a lot of groups in Nevada doing this work and are committed to continuing those efforts. And like Mark said, if one door closes, another one opens, and we'll find a way.
Yeah, I love that. Mark, we're going to come back to you, see if you have any more fire lines to drop for us.
Yeah, I can't claim credit for that one. No, I mean, I think this is, on the one hand, the scope of the problem is huge and is intimidating, and is frankly becoming clearer and clearer every day as we see more, climate-linked natural disasters and extreme weather events. At the same time, this is also a really exciting time, because we're seeing more progress than, frankly, that we've ever seen on these issues, and I think we can continue to accelerate it. As far as things that I'm excited about in IRA, and I think it takes time. I think for a lot of these more like industrial scale or utility scale clean energy projects to come online. I'm looking forward to that over the next few years. We've seen really just how volatile fossil fuel prices can be in the last couple of years. I mean, a lot of I don't know if it's the same in Northern Nevada, but in Southern Nevada, our energy prices have been spiking through the roof, and that's entirely because of the cost of natural gas. And so as we get off that and get onto more renewable energies, that should, stabilize and bring those costs down for everyone. So I'm really excited to see more and more of that come online.
Awesome. Thank you. Nick, to close it out, last but not least, go forth.
Sure thing. Well, I really like what Yasmin had to say about the benefits coming to our most marginalized and strongly affected communities. I think it's really important that we keep them in our sights as we're implementing these solutions and make sure that we're not increasing the economic divide while we're solving the climate crisis. But what I would encourage people to do is get out and get involved. If this is important to you, there are a lot of organizations out there, not just the Sierra Club, but certainly we're among them, that are trying to champion basically a better future for everybody, the country, and future generations. And if you believe that this is important, like we do, stand up and have your vote counted. That's the way we're going to get this done, and get this done in a manner that minimizes the damage that we all have to live with.
Awesome. Well, thank you all three of you, for joining us today. And to Congresswoman Lee, I know she was not able to stay the entire time, but we are happy to have any portion of her evening that she can spend with us. Thank you all so much. We will keep y'all updated on any future events that we have around the IRA anniversary happening this summer. And thanks for tuning in to the first ever Silver State Update. Have a good night.